Okay. Hey, it's Jason here at Suffer City. I'm going to be talking about shoe selection. So we'll talk about the shoes that I personally use. I've got 6 pairs we'll be talking about. And when I think about myself and what I use my shoes for, well, I am a runner with a lifting problem. And so all 6 shoes that I described today will be a shoe I can run in as well as do other things in. And so, hey, let's get into it. Now I'll be breaking these shoes down into their brand, as well as what they were designed for, what I use them for. We'll talk about cost, we'll talk about their durability, how long you could expect them to last, as well as their fit and sizing, traction, and of course we'll talk about their aesthetics and how they look. So let's get into shoe number 1. Now this is a shoe I will generally recommend for most people most of the time. If you're just getting started at Suffer City, if you're considering any type of a HYROX training or even a HYROX race, this will be a great shoe to get you going. And what is it? This is our Puma Nitro Deviate 2. Now, this is a super shoe, meaning it's got the super foam. It's also got a carbon fiber plate. So it is a run dominant shoe, but you could also do other things in this shoe. I push the sled, pull the sled. Y'all do barbell cleans, lunges in this shoe. And overall, it's just a fantastic shoe as a general all-purpose trainer and even a great racer. I will do indoor training, outdoor training. I'll go on zone 2 runs. I'll do short distance, faster runs with this shoe. In terms of the cost, you could expect to see this Deviate 2 around 130, 150, 160, depending upon your size and of course the color. Now the Deviate 3 with some slight modifications, you'll notice, is obviously going to be priced slightly higher. But in either case, you'd expect around 150 bucks for your Puma Nitro Deviate 2 or 3. Now what about durability? How long can you expect these shoes to last? Now, they'll last a long time. I mean, they're not going to develop any holes or they're not going to fall apart on you completely for any considerable amount of time. But in terms of the actual feedback you want from the shoe, the reason why you bought the shoe, the $160 of technology in this shoe, that's going to run out on you anywhere between 75 to 100 miles. Now, of course, that's going to depend upon the types of miles those are, as well as who's wearing this shoe. A bigger gentleman like myself, I'm going to put a little bit more pressure, a little bit more wear and tear onto a shoe, where somebody who's a $110 running in a similar or same shoe obviously isn't going to put as much pressure onto the shoe. So it'll last a little bit longer in terms of the super foam technology staying nice and firm and giving you that nice bouncy cushion feel. And of course the carbon fiber plate maintaining its good recoil ability, kind of absorbs a lot of the force production through your foot strike as well as launching you into your next stride. To be fair, that's not a lot of time. That's not a lot of mileage that you would get out of traditional running shoes. And like I said, in terms of having the shoe to run in, it'll last you a long time, but in terms of why you bought this shoe, the money you put into the technology, that will diminish rather quickly. Now the traction on the Deviate 2 is outstanding, whether it's pushing the sled, pulling the sled, you get great traction on various types of surfaces. So Puma did a great job with this shoe. I think a lot of HYROX racers favor the Puma brand, and so if this is a style of shoe you're looking for and you haven't tried any type of a super shoe or any type of a runner like this, maybe a great start for you. Okay, let's move on. Now I'm going to go into a Puma, sticking with the same brand. It's also a Nitro, it's also a Deviate. However, it is slightly more specified towards running. And this is the Nitro Deviate Elite. And so what is different about this Puma Deviate compared to the Deviate 2? Well, for starters, it's a lot lighter. You're going to notice that out of the gate. Now, the traction on this shoe is not quite as good. In fact, I don't push the sled. I won't pull the sled with this shoe. It's just not very effective. And so other styles of training that are run dominant, I'll still lift a barbell with this shoe. I'll do some lunging with this shoe, box jumping with this shoe, but definitely great running shoe. And it does a great job with the super shoe capability. Of course, it's got the foam, a great carbon fiber. Now, whether or not there's a difference in the foam and the carbon fiber plate between this and the other Deviate, I'm uncertain. It's also incredibly comfortable on my foot. I will tell you, the toe box is slightly more narrow as compared to the Puma Deviate 2. but it's still, my foot fits in there quite comfortably. And that also, I think, lends to the weight of the shoe, slightly less material. And the material is different, definitely much different material that we've got between this shoe and your Deviate 2. Now, what about cost? As I mentioned, this is the upgraded Deviate line, your Deviate Elite. And so you could find this shoe between 180 upwards of 220 bucks. So a solid shoe here if you just want to upgrade that Puma running experience a little bit and have a shoe that's slightly more detailed towards running. Okay, now we're moving away from the Puma brand and we're moving on to the Hoka brand. That's right, Hoka, Hoka, Hoka. Now this here is the Hoka Tecton X2. Tecton X2. Now it is designed for trail running. You can see that with the traction there. Hoka is known more traditionally for their distance runners, and this is really no different. It's their trail distance runner, a lot of cushion, a lot of support. What I'll also get from this shoe is a bit of super shoe action. Now you've got the bit of foam that's harder than your regular super foam that you're going to find in the Puma or even some of the other super shoes, and that is because it's a trail shoe. You know, it wants to take on a little bit more of a rougher terrain, rockier surfaces, but it does have that super foam capacity in there, and it's also got some carbon fiber. And so great trail running shoe, but I'll tell you what, I do just about everything in this shoe, and if I'm being fair about it, this is one of my favorite shoes. I think if the world were to end and I were to have a shoe on my foot, I wouldn't be too upset if this was the shoe that was on my foot. I get a lot of long, slow distance running on this shoe, and that's on any type of ground, not just the trail. But I'll also do most of, if not all of my trail running in this shoe. I have done a lot of weight room stuff, sled pushing, weightlifting in this shoe. I like that it is a zero drop shoe. The other shoes I mentioned have a substantial drop in terms of the height of the heel and then the drop down into the toe box. Now this is a more durable shoe. I'll tell you what, I've got two other pairs of these that I've had for well over 200 miles on each shoe. And I would say while I will get a little degradation on the traction, the shoe itself still feels pretty good. So an awesome shoe in terms of the traction, the durability that you'll get from these. And then what about cost? Now, well, much like the other super shoes, they're not cheap. You could find these around the $200 range. A Hoka Tecton X2, solid shoe in the Suffer City Training Center. You want some good traction and you want a zero drop. Absolutely solid shoe right here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, let's stick with the Hoka brand. We're staying on brand here. We're going to come up to what I guess I would call my favorite runner if I just had one shoe to run in, especially long distance. There's just a bunch of distance running, and I had a shoe to put on. It would be this puppy right here. This is your Hoka Cello X1. It's Hoka Cello X1. And this is Hoka's super shoe of super shoes. You've got everything from a very light shoe, despite how big it is. The mass, it's not that heavy, not heavy at all. And it's got a cool fabric. The color's interesting, you know, kind of grew on me a little bit. And what else here? Let's talk about this lift. I mean, this is a significant lift up off the ground. Check out the lift of this shoe. It's quite significant. And the drop also, you'll get a pretty decent drop on this, whether or not it's 4 or 7 millimeters, I'm unsure, but I definitely notice a bit of a drop on this Hoka. It's a lot of shoe. This is a significant amount of shoe. And so it may take you a couple miles, in fact, to develop some familiarity with this running shoe, because it is a lot of shoe. Now, there's no question about what Hoka designed this for. This is a runner through and through. It's got the fantastic carbon fiber plate that is very, very tight. You have a tremendous amount of super foam, and this is really nice super foam here as well. And so you've got this wonderfully, what I have experienced as a wonderfully designed running shoe, and that's what I use these shoes for. This is a strictly runner. You won't find me in the weight room with these shoes on. No. And generally the running I'll do in these is about 7 miles or more. It does a great job of saving my legs. I can get done with a long 7, even a 10 miler, and feel as though my legs are fine thereafter. And so it's great for building mileage, developing your run volume. And there's a lot to be said about that with regard to the fiber plate and the super shoes and how they can either help or hinder your training or performance. But what about durability? How long can you expect this to last? Hard to say. I've got 2 pairs of these. That sounds like a shoe junkie, I know. But in either case, I sort of go back and forth between them. And at this point, it's hard to tell which one I've used more. I've probably put 80 to 100 miles on each over the course of the past 3 to 5 months, and they're still in great condition, and so we'll see how long they keep going. Now, while you'll get great traction on any type of hard surface, cement, asphalt, don't expect a lot of traction on turf. So if you're a HYROX racer and you want to push the sled, pull the sled or something like that, this is not your ticket to paradise. No, no. In terms of the comfort and the fit, probably not for every foot out there, I must be honest. As I said, my foot fits fairly well into most shoes, but when I slid this one on, I could see and feel how many people could find this to be a weird, awkward feeling shoe and really not even feel compelled to run it. But overall, once it's on your foot and you've got that familiarity, it feels light, it feels fast, and it even feels kind of fun. Now, when we're talking about cost, you got to take out a small loan to get these things, unfortunately. Again, I found some great discount codes, so I was able to leverage those, but you could find these around $300, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending upon where you're at. But again, not a cheap shoe choice, but definitely could pay off in the long run, so to speak. Okay, moving on. We've got a new shoe brand. We're going to move on to the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. Great stability, great fit, kind of a cool look even too. This is the white version. They've got other versions of interesting colors, but this is your white one. Now it is designed as a runner. This is a great super shoe. Now the carbon fiber on this is aggressive. I'm not gonna lie, aggressive, and you could feel the stability, the support. You could feel the absorption of some of the ground force contact from stride to stride with this shoe. Along with it, the foam is fantastic, but I will tell you, you get a lot of support. You get this wide, not necessarily a super wide toe box, but the surface area of the shoe sort of fans out here, if you could see it, fans out really nicely, and you could feel sort of this surface area on each foot strike, and you feel the support if you had to make turns around corners or things like that. The shoe gives you that feeling of support. So in terms of the fit and comfortability of this particular shoe, I tell you, I put it on and I thought my foot slid into a Mercedes-Benz or something. It feels fantastic. The outer fabric here conforms nicely to your foot, gives you a little bit of play left and right. Some people like that, some people don't. But in terms of the comfort it gives you, I think it's a great, comfortable fit. The laces as well, they tie real easy, they stretch real easy, and they're hot pink. So there's that. Hey, for traction, not significant traction here. You may get what you could call enough. If you're somebody who wants to push a sled, pull a sled in a HYROX race, you might be able to get your money's worth out of these. I would definitely pressure check it first though. Hey, durability. How long is this puppy gonna last? I don't know. I've got 1 pair and I've ran in them long distance for maybe 50 to 70 miles. I'd say I'd put about 50 to 70 miles on these. I wear them around, I walk around in these, believe that or not. I think they look cool. They look sharp. It's a nice white shoe. And so I feel great in them. So I do a lot of walking around in them, but I've also gotten some running in them. I'm not afraid to train in them. I would box jump in these. I would do a Suffer City train in these, and definitely do some good running in these shoes. Yeah. So how much can you expect to pay for something like this? Right around the $200 range. It's a quality shoe. I think considering shoe prices these days, you get your money's worth out of this. I think it's going to last you. It's going to give you a great ride too, especially if you are big on running. So there you go, the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4. We're on to our final shoe number 6. So we're sticking with the Saucony, and maybe you've already guessed what it is. It's the Endorphin Pro 3. Here it is in all its glory. Hey, I love this shoe. I know we just talked about the Endorphin Pro 4, so why do I stick with this shoe as my race shoe? Well, I'll tell you, it just comes down to the subtle differences between the Senorphin Pro 3 and the Senorphin Pro 4. The first of which is the fit on my foot. This isn't as comfortable a fit, I'll tell you that out of the gate. However, it fits tight and it fits snug, and it doesn't give my foot some of that wiggle room or play that the Senorphin Pro 4 does. I think the fabric on the outside is a little more rigid, so it bounds my feet in a little bit more, and so when I slide my foot into this, it feels fast. I lace these puppies up and I want to go fast. And so they're also light. That's incredibly light. And I would have to say perhaps lighter than the Senorphin Pro 4, but certainly lighter than the other shoes I mentioned before. It's a very light shoe. It's a very light fit. And when I pick my feet up again, I feel fast. Now, of course, Saucony made this as a runner. It's their fast runner. I could only imagine 5K shoe, maybe a 10K shoe. Could be a marathon shoe for some people. I don't know, but it's got this tremendously stiff carbon fiber plate. The super foam on here is way cool. Kind of has this rounded look. Now you can see, yeah, this shoe was built for speed. Maybe not as much for comfort, I will tell you that, but definitely for speed. Now, what I mean by not for comfort is they are comfortable. I feel great with them on. But in terms of the shoes I've shown you before, the Pumas, definitely the Senorphin Pro 4, they fit slightly more comfortably. It feels nicer. Like I feel like my foot wants to be in those shoes a little bit more. But when my foot's in this shoe, it wants to go fast. Now, I'll use this shoe predominantly for speed running, my short intervals, 1K, half K, mile takedowns, 5K hard runs, things like that. I won't wear this shoe too often because it has a very specific feel to it, and it's a race feel. I feel like I want to race in this shoe. So this is my race shoe. I'll do some training in the Senorphin Pro 3, especially as I'm leading up to a race, but I will generally save this for race day. Now, I'll do some box jumping in it. It sled pushes well, it sled pulls well, the traction on it is good. Maybe not great. Some of you may want or prefer the traction of the Puma or another more tractable shoe out there, but I get enough traction out of the Saucony Senorphin Pro 3 here. In terms of durability, again, I wouldn't expect this shoe to last you a lifetime. I've gotten about 100 miles into a pair of Saucony Senorphin Pro 3s, and I would say the technology that I purchased, i.e. the super running technology, has began to diminish quite noticeably. Now, this particular pair here, I've got 2 races in these shoes, so just about 16K of straight running. Add a little bit here and there for the HYROX course, but that's all I've got on this. And so that's why I'll generally suggest to get a race shoe and then keep that shoe as your race shoe and wear it only when you race. In terms of the aesthetics, simple, but I'll tell you, I find it sleek and I find it rather sexy, not gonna lie. The white's really hot white with that gold, nice gold trim. Looks pretty good, looks sharp, looks fast to me. I find it to be quite a good looking shoe. Okay, so we covered down on all the shoes we talked about. Hokas, we talked about Pumas, we talked about Sauconys, we talked about the 6 shoes that I wear for training, as well as that one race shoe, that Saucony Senorphin Pro 3. Now, hey, there's a lot of input out there, probably a lot of disagreements out there with regard to the shoes I've selected, the shoes I use, but these are shoes I use. I'm sure other people got other feet, and their foot's going to feel a little bit better in something else. But the most important thing is you find the shoe that's right for you and your feet and what it is you're training for, as well as what you'll be racing in. So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, my name is Jason here at Suffer City. If you have any questions, comments, all the good stuff, go ahead and comment below, and why not give us a like or a subscribe or what people do on this thing. And until next time, go be great.